Hey friends, it's Christy over at Crafty Christy's Creations, and today we are pulling out the heat press and we are going to make us a crafty shirt. So stick around for all the fun.
Okay, here I am in Silhouette Studio and I've got the Crafty SVG here. Remember, this is the one that you can get for free on the website. And I'm going to start by grouping this design. So I'm just going to right click group. You can also do Control and G. And then with my ratio aspect locked, I'm going to go ahead and change the width to 10. Since I measured my shirt, that'll be the correct size that I want. And then I am going to go ahead and keep that nice and centered. That looks good. We can scoot that design up a bit. And then I'm going to use my flexi shapes, grab the heart, and I am going to make some hearts. So you've got the little dots here. When you're done and you like where it's at, you're going to right click and convert to path. Now it's a complete cuttable path. And then I'm just going to give that a fill color, and again the ratio aspect is locked and I like pretty numbers, so we're going to do 1.5. And then let's just, I believe it's nope, Control. Okay. So those are pretty close together. I'm gonna give them a little bit more room. So now I can grab all of these, and then I can use this one that will space them out evenly. Okay, I'm gonna cut it out like that. So the next thing we need to do is, again, group it all together. I'm going to pull it off to the side, come over to the replicate panel, and we're going to mirror it to the right. So now our design is ready to go to the machine. So the only other thing I need to do here is on my page setup. I'm going to be cutting this off of a roll of vinyl. So again, I need to fix my page setup. So I'm using my Cameo 5. The feeder type is going to be manual. Cut mat will be none because it's a roll. And then the media size is roughly 12 by 12. I can leave that alone. That looks good. And then when we go to our send panel, I'm using a glitter HTV. And we're going to let that cut it out. And then it gives you this automatic cross cut. So when you open that up, you see when it's disabled, that line goes away, but when you enable it, it's on there. And then relative to job. So if I undo that, if you undo the relative to job, looks like you can decide kind of where that's going to go. But I'm just going to do relative. It's going to give me a little extra room there. And then it's also going to cut that line at the very end. It's going to have, looks like, its own cut settings for this. Doesn't appear to be any way for me to change those settings either. So we'll go ahead and try that and see how it goes. So everything's ready. I'm going to go ahead and load up my machine, and then we'll get cutting.
All right, I've got the roll feeder set up here, and I'm going to use my glitter. This is a white glitter heat transfer vinyl. So let's go ahead and get it set up here. Slide that open, pop these up. And remember, you want to cut on with the plastic carrier sheet down. So we're going to load it in this direction. And then we'll lift this piece up. We're going to feed our roll through this piece right here. I find this to be the hardest part, is to feed it through this piece. There we go. Okay, so it fed through there. And then the next hard part is to get it to feed into the machine. Trying to get it nice and straight and under all of those rollers. And we may need to make some ruler adjustments. Okay, let's get it all the way to the edge on this side. So I am going to go ahead and just slide over my rulers. This bottom one, it's not really the bottom, this edge, we want to bring that in a little bit further into the edge here. There, that'll work. Okay, so that is all kind of fed in, and now we can go ahead and bring it on in. I'm just checking, make sure everything looks nice and straight. So we've got our roll feeder set up for our design, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit send from Silhouette Studio, and then when it's all done, it's going to go ahead and cut this off of the roll, and then we'll go ahead and start weeding. So let's get cutting. And I'm going to try to just feed that in there. Oh. Okay, so you can see that did not work out like I wanted, and I was worried about that edge not being straight. I'm actually going to unload. My cuts are a little bit off right now. I'm going to go ahead and just turn this off. And I'm just going to restart. Okay, let's start there. See how that goes. Go ahead and resend. All right, so it's done cutting those. So now it's going to cut that design off of the roll. It's going to just cut straight across, and it should be cutting through the carrier sheet and the okay, so now we can go ahead and hit unload. Didn't quite cut all the way through, I don't think. Maybe. Let's see. I don't know if it cut all the way through. Looks like it did. Just needs a little, not quite. Didn't quite cut through all the way. So I'm going to just keep unrolling. Okay, everything's off of there now. Okay, but you can take this roll out. And so that was just using the automatic roll piece that the auto cut that it has, and it didn't really cut it all the way off of the roll. So it's got, I know it's hard to see, but there's this line here that it cut, and some of it did. Seems like it cut all the way through, but maybe not quite everywhere. The center did. Yeah, that carrier sheet was pretty thick. It didn't really cut all the way through. So I'm going to use my scissors and just finish cutting that line. I did not tell it what settings to use for that line. So I guess it just calculates it based on the settings that you used to cut everything else. So I'm not quite sure what the settings were that it used for this. Seems like the center cut really well. It just needed maybe a little bit maybe a second pass or a little bit more pressure to get across there. But that's my roll. So now here's my design. And then we had a little snafu up at the top, so I went ahead and fed it through some more. That looks great. And it looks like we got a nice clean cut. So let's go ahead and weed this out. Got my little weeding tool here. And then I'm not going to worry about cutting all of this at the top. Yeah, let's go ahead and cut it off. Ideally, I'm going to have a straight line here. So we'll bring in my ruler. Let's draw a straight line. And then see if I can't cut a straight line. I like to have a straight line at the top, so that way when I go to lay it on my shirt, everything will be pretty straight. Okay. So there is my line across the top, just to cut off this extra from our little snafu issue. Cut that off. And then if I had something small that I was going to cut, say like putting vinyl on a ribbon or something, so I can save this. I'm just going to cut off this end piece here where I had my issues. We'll cut the issue part off, toss that. This we can save and use for a later date. And now here's our design. Let's go ahead and weed it all out. And then the hearts, I'm not sure if I'm going to leave them where they're at or if I'm going to place them kind of around my design. I think I'm going to end up having to place them around my design because I didn't go all the way across with them. I should have maybe done one more over here to leave them, just to make it a little more uniform. So I'll probably just end up using a couple of them. And again, the rest I can save for a different project. Okay. Well, that came off mostly in one big chunk, so that was cool. Get the centers of our A's. Got this funny piece between the F and the T. And then we've got one more center here. Okay, our design is all weeded out. So you see what I'm saying with all the hearts? I think they look good there. Maybe I should just lose this one here and then just have 4 hearts. That wouldn't be terrible. We could do that. I could do that, or I was thinking I might just kind of throw some, cut them separate. There's enough gap here that I could cut them separate and then just kind of throw them everywhere. But I think I'm just going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to save it for a different project by keeping it on the carrier sheet. So now I can keep it on the carrier sheet, and now this is something I can use for a different project. I think it looks great with those couple of hearts added to the bottom. So our design is ready. Let's go ahead and get our shirt prepared. Okay, so my shirt here, and I've got this extra V piece that's on here, and I'm going to use that as the center, and I'm going to start my design just right under that. But let's go ahead, while this is heating, I'm just going to pre-press my shirt and try to get out all the wrinkles. We're just getting out moisture and wrinkles right now. That looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is take my corners, fold my shirt together, make sure that center line is indeed my center line. So I am folding the top edges with the bottom edges, fold that shirt in half, and then I'm just going to press down this line here. That should be center line for my shirt. Okay, go ahead and open that back up. Tuck that in. So I've got my center line of my shirt here, and then I'm going to take my decal. Okay, so we've got a little crease there. I'm going to take that and line that right up the crease of my shirt and the crease of my vinyl. I'll lay that down. And so the collars here, usually want about 3 or 4 fingers down. And when I put it on, this will sit just nicely right there. So that'll be a perfect place. And we're going to be able to do this all pressed at one time. So I'm just getting this a good press down. It beeped, so it's ready. So we're doing 400 degrees for 15 seconds. And it almost does the entire design. And we'll go ahead and lift, come over to this side, and we'll press over here. And then I'm going to do one more down here on these letters. Okay, and this is a cool peel. So we'll go ahead and let that cool down. And I can see it's already completely warped off of here. And looks like it's stuck on there really well. I'm happy with how that turned out. Looks like that A is not quite stuck down. Let's see. Oh yeah. That looks fantastic. There is our beautiful crafty shirt. So how much fun was that? I just love the way that this shirt turned out, especially because I added the hearts at the bottom. That was definitely the right choice. So remember to grab your free SVG file down below, and we'll see you next time.